I'm glad you could join me again today. I've got something very, very useful to consider: the root cause of worry. If you're a worrier, this is really going to help you. Analyse it with me and let's see how we get away from this stuff. In 1608, a Dutch scientist patented the first telescope. The Lord showed me a telescope this morning. I thought, what's that got to do with my subject? He often does that when I'm getting used to it. You probably haven't heard of the inventor of the telescope. He was a Dutch man called Hans Lippershay. A year later, a much more well-known scientist and astronomer, an Italian called Galileo, made several improvements on the original design. And he created a telescope which was far improved, and it could magnify 20 times. You could see the mountains on the moon, all sorts of stuff like that. Basically, a telescope has got two lenses. It's got a concave eyepiece and a convex objective lens. It's a powerful instrument which is using the science of images. Now, when they were mass produced, the Galileo telescope was very popular, but most common people had little or no idea how to use it. Well, which end do I look down? Now, God in his creation, in the blueprint of mankind, put a more powerful device than the telescope in us. He gave us a human eye, which gives us natural sight into our body. But today, I want to consider the soul. In the soul, he gave us a more powerful tool on which we could create images with our eyelids closed. We call it our imagination. How are images created in your soul? Well, if I say to you the words black dog, you can see or imagine a black dog. With your eyes closed, I can change the image. If I say black dog with only 3 legs, with minimum effort on your part, the image changes. If you're new in a town and you want to go to the post office, you ask a local person, they'll give you some instructions and you'll listen and you say, thanks very much, I understand, I see. Now, you haven't seen it with your natural eye, but you've seen with your imagination based upon the words you were told. Imagination's a wonderful gift, better than a man-made telescope. Most telescope owners quickly learn which end to look through, but unfortunately, although most of us, or all of us, have imagination, very few people use it correctly. Give you an example. If one of your family members is late in coming home, most people's imagination goes into overdrive. What's happened? As the time ticks by, you imagine that perhaps their loved one has had an accident, and after all, your logical mind says, well, the roads are icy at this time of the year, they've had an accident, they must have had. When a few hours have gone by, you've rung the police, the hospital, the fire brigade, and so on. And when the news comes through that they're okay, you say to your irresponsible family member, son or daughter, whoever, who had their mobile phone turned off, well, I was worried sick. I'd imagine all kinds of accidents had happened. This is a negative and incorrect use of imagination. It's called worry. Now, when God created man, he noticed that men were also using their imagination in another wrong way. In Genesis 6 we read, "The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in all the earth, and every imagination of all human thinking was only evil continually. And the Lord regretted he made man, and he was grieved at heart." See, this wrong use of imagination grieves God. We're told in Ephesians not to grieve the Holy Spirit. This is worry grieves God. That might shock you. Stop it. Stop. Get a hold on it, This is worrying you. It's causing you to be sick, and it's grieving God. After all the people from the situation where all the world was in negative imagination, God decided to flood the earth. And only Noah and his family were saved from the global flood. Now, imagine Galileo in Venice with a room full of people, and all the people were looking in their telescopes the wrong way round. Galileo would have been grieved, just as God was grieved. We have to recognise that our imagination, although it's powerful and can be used effectively, most people use it the wrong way. Jesus said, talking about adultery in Matthew 5:28, if you imagine yourself in an adulterous situation with a woman, you've not done anything, but you've imagined it, that is just as bad. And imagination leads people into evil. Every person is tempted by his own desire. When he has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin to death. So remember, conception before birth, conception before sin, sin before death. Murder, rape, theft, exactly all those things, those bad things that people do, all have to be conceived first in the imagination before they actually happen. A man doesn't just go out and rape a woman or steal from a shop. He thinks about it. He imagines how is he going to do it. So mostly negative. All of this happens in the population because of the very active devil and his demons. He's giving people thoughts, feeding stuff to their imagination, and then they act upon it, and they're using their imagination negatively and in an evil way which grieves God. Holy Spirit, on the other hand, wants us to use our imagination positively. It's hard to find in a Bible search examples of a wonderful creative use of imagination. Well, is there no example in the Bible about positive imagination? Yes, there is, but it's not called positive imagination. It's been given a new word which is used extensively. Yes, positive imagination is extensive in the New Testament, but it goes by another name. I'm going to give you the Greek. It's eyepiece, E-L-P-I-S, Strong's 1680, and that's where things get really interesting and exciting. See if you can figure out what eyepiece means. I'll see you next time.